Why learning to be alone may be the most important skill you'll ever master. Have you ever noticed something strange? The older we become, the more our lives seem to be measured by milestones we never chose. Graduate, find a stable job, get married, buy a house. Have children. Somewhere along the way, these milestones quietly stop being options and begin to feel like obligations. Few people ever ask why. They simply follow the road because everyone else is walking in the same direction. And if someone steps off that road, people become uncomfortable. Imagine attending a family gathering. An aunt you've barely spoken to all year smiles and asks, "So, when are you getting married?" She doesn't ask if you've found peace. She doesn't ask whether you wake up excited to live another day. She doesn't ask whether you've become kinder, wiser, or stronger than you were a year ago. Instead, one question seems to outweigh every other achievement. Have you found someone? It's fascinating when you think about it. A person might build a successful business, travel across the world, write a book, care for aging parents, overcome depression, learn another language, become the most compassionate person in the room. Yet many people will still look at them and quietly wonder, but why are they still single? This reveals something profound about modern society. We often judge success by appearances instead of inner reality. And perhaps nowhere is this more obvious than in the way we think about relationships. From childhood, we are surrounded by stories that teach us one central idea. Someone else will complete you. Disney movies tell it, romantic comedies repeat it, love songs celebrate it, advertisements sell it. Even fairy tales almost always end at the wedding. Notice something curious. The story rarely continues after that. Because real life begins where fairy tales end, the wedding lasts one day. Marriage may last 50 years. Yet we spend far more time dreaming about the ceremony than preparing for the decades that follow. Perhaps that's why so many people confuse falling in love with building a life. They're not the same thing. Falling in love happens almost effortlessly. Building a peaceful life requires patience, emotional maturity, forgiveness, discipline, and self-awareness. Those qualities don't magically appear because two people exchanged rings. If they were absent before marriage, they'll probably remain absent afterward. Yet despite all the evidence around us, we continue believing that relationships are the destination. Why? Because deep down, many of us are terrified of one thing, being alone. Not because solitude is painful by nature, but because we've been taught to fear it. Think back to your childhood. Were you ever encouraged to spend quiet time alone? Probably not. The moment children become quiet, adults assume something is wrong. They're encouraged to socialize, join clubs, make friends, stay busy, be productive, fill every empty hour. By adulthood, silence feels unfamiliar. Many people can't sit in a quiet room for 10 minutes without reaching for their phone. Not because they have something important to do. Because silence forces them to meet someone they've been avoiding, themselves. The philosopher Blaise Pascal once wrote that nearly all human suffering comes from our inability to sit quietly alone in a room. Centuries have passed since he wrote those words. Ironically, they may be even more true today. Look around any waiting room, an airport, a cafe, a train station. The moment people have nothing demanding their attention, they instinctively pull out a screen. We are no longer escaping boredom, we're escaping ourselves. Every notification becomes a tiny distraction from the questions quietly waiting beneath the surface. Am I happy? Am I living the life I actually want? Who am I when nobody is watching? These questions are uncomfortable. So instead of answering them, we keep scrolling. Social media makes this even harder. Within seconds, we are flooded with images of smiling couples, engagement rings, honeymoon beaches, gender reveal parties, anniversary dinners, and perfectly posed family portraits. It feels as though everyone else has figured life out. But appearances have always been deceptive. A photograph captures 1 second. A relationship unfolds across thousands of ordinary days. The camera never records the arguments. It never records the sleepless nights, the resentment, the loneliness that can exist even while holding someone else's hand. This is something many people discover only after they get exactly what they thought they wanted. They find a partner, they get married. Perhaps they even build the family they always dreamed about. And yet months or years later they ask themselves a question they never expected. Why do I still feel empty? The answer is uncomfortable. Because emptiness cannot be cured by another human being. Imagine carrying an empty cup everywhere you go. You spend years searching for someone who will finally fill it. Eventually, you meet the perfect partner. They pour everything they have into your cup: love, attention, time, affection, encouragement. For a while it feels wonderful, but there's one problem. Your cup has a hole in the bottom. No matter how much another person pours into it, it keeps leaking, not because they failed. Because the hole was always yours to repair. Many relationships quietly become exhausting for exactly this reason. One person spends years trying to fill a void they didn't create. The other keeps wondering why nothing is ever enough. Love slowly transforms into obligation, affection becomes pressure. And pressure has a way of suffocating even the deepest feelings. Perhaps this is why so many people mistake dependency for love. Real love says, I choose to walk beside you. Dependency says, I cannot stand without you. Those two sentences may sound similar. In reality, they create completely different lives. The strongest relationships are rarely formed by two people desperately searching for someone to rescue them. They are built by two individuals who have already learned how to stand on their own. People who know how to enjoy solitude don't seek relationships to escape loneliness. They seek relationships because they genuinely want to share an already meaningful life. That changes everything. Because when love is no longer driven by fear, it finally becomes free. There is a quiet irony hidden beneath modern life. Many people spend years searching for someone because they are afraid of feeling lonely. Then one day they finally find that person, they fall in love, they get married. They move into the same house, they sleep in the same bed, and somehow they still feel alone. Not the kind of loneliness that comes from an empty apartment, a much heavier kind. The loneliness of not being understood. The loneliness of pretending everything is fine because admitting otherwise feels like failure. The loneliness of slowly realizing that physical closeness and emotional connection are two completely different things. This is a kind of loneliness that rarely appears on social media. No one posts a picture after spending 3 days speaking only about groceries and utility bills. No one uploads a photo after another silent dinner where both partners stared at their phones instead of each other. The world sees the anniversary picture. It never sees the emotional distance that grew quietly over thousands of ordinary evenings. Perhaps this is why so many people misunderstand loneliness. They think loneliness is the absence of people. But often, loneliness is the absence of connection. You can feel completely alive while hiking alone through a forest. And you can feel completely invisible while sitting beside someone you've known for 20 years. The difference has nothing to do with company. It has everything to do with presence. Have you ever had a conversation with someone who made you feel as though time had disappeared? No distractions, no need to impress. No fear of being judged, just two human beings meeting honestly. Those moments stay with us because they are rare. Now ask yourself another question. How many conversations in your daily life feel like that? For many people, the answer is surprisingly few. Instead, life becomes a series of routines. Wake up, go to work, pay bills, watch television, go to sleep, repeat. Days become weeks. Weeks become years. Without realizing it, two people can slowly become roommates managing responsibilities rather than companions sharing a journey. This doesn't happen because either person is evil. It happens because familiarity often replaces curiosity. At the beginning of a relationship, we ask endless questions. What's your biggest dream? What scares you? What makes you laugh? What kind of life do you imagine? Years later, many couples stop asking altogether. They assume they already know each other. But people never stop changing. The person you married at 28 is not the same person at 48. Every experience reshapes us. Every disappointment leaves a mark. Every success changes our priorities. The tragedy isn't that people change. The tragedy is believing they don't. Imagine reading only the first chapter of a novel and assuming you already know the ending. That would seem absurd. Yet many people do exactly that with the people they love. They stop discovering each other. Eventually, emotional distance grows so gradually that neither person notices until one day a simple sentence changes everything. I don't know who you are anymore. Perhaps the truth is even more unsettling. Maybe they stopped knowing themselves long before they stopped knowing each other. One of the greatest dangers of constantly seeking external validation is that we slowly lose contact with our own inner voice. We become experts at meeting expectations, good employee, good spouse, good parent, good neighbor. But somewhere beneath all those roles lives a quieter question. Who am I when no one needs anything from me? Many people spend decades avoiding that question, not because they don't care, because they are afraid of the answer. This fear often begins long before adulthood. As children, we receive praise for behaving correctly, for fitting in, for making others happy. Very few of us are taught how to listen to ourselves. So we become skilled performers. We know how to smile when we're exhausted, how to say I'm fine when we are falling apart, how to stay in relationships that no longer nourish us because leaving would disappoint everyone else. Little by little, we trade authenticity for approval. The exchange seems harmless at first, until one morning we wake up living a life that no longer feels like our own. This is why some people panic after a breakup. It isn't only the loss of another person. It's the terrifying realization that they've forgotten how to exist without that person. For years, their identity was built around being someone's partner. Now that identity has disappeared, they don't know what music they enjoy anymore, what hobbies they once loved, what dreams they quietly abandoned. Everything revolved around we, they no longer remember I. But every ending carries an invitation. A breakup can become the beginning of something unexpected, not another relationship, a relationship with yourself. At first it feels uncomfortable, the silence seems too loud. Weekends feel strangely empty. There is no one to text good morning, no one waiting at home. It feels as though something important is missing, and perhaps something is, but absence creates space. Space to ask questions that busyness once drowned out. What excites me? What kind of people bring out the best in me? What habits quietly destroy my peace? What dreams have I postponed because I believed happiness had to wait for someone else? These questions don't arrive with immediate answers. They require patience, sometimes months, sometimes years. Yet every honest answer brings us one step closer to becoming someone we genuinely recognize. The philosopher Socrates famously declared that the unexamined life is not worth living. Perhaps we could say something similar about relationships. The unexamined relationship is not worth depending on. Whether we are single or married, the real challenge is not finding another person. It is remaining awake to our fears, awake to our patterns, awake to the stories we've inherited about what a successful life is supposed to look like. Because the opposite of loneliness isn't romance, it isn't marriage, it isn't even companionship. The opposite of loneliness is understanding yourself so deeply that your own presence no longer feels empty, and once that happens, something remarkable changes. You stop looking for someone to rescue you. You begin looking for someone to walk beside you. There is an enormous difference. One comes from fear, the other comes from freedom. And only one of them has the power to create a love that lasts. There is a reason why so many philosophers, artists, and thinkers deliberately sought moments of solitude. It wasn't because they disliked people. It was because silence reveals things that noise never can. When we are constantly surrounded by other people's opinions, expectations, and approval, it's surprisingly easy to lose ourselves. We begin living on autopilot. We choose careers because they impress others. We stay busy because being still feels uncomfortable. We chase relationships because everyone else seems to be doing the same. Without realizing it, our entire life becomes a reaction instead of a choice. But solitude interrupts that cycle. The first few days alone can feel unsettling. There are no conversations to distract you. No notifications demanding your attention. No one telling you who you should be. At first, this silence feels empty. Then something unexpected happens. Your own thoughts become louder. Dreams you buried years ago quietly return. Questions you've been avoiding begin asking for answers. And slowly, the person beneath all the roles begins to emerge. Carl Jung believed that much of our suffering comes from living according to a mask, a version of ourselves designed to satisfy the world. But masks become heavy. Eventually, we grow exhausted pretending to be someone we are not. Solitude gives us permission to take that mask off. It reminds us that our worth has never depended on applause, or relationship status, or social approval. It has always existed beneath those things. This is why people who are comfortable being alone often appear calm in situations that make others anxious. They don't desperately seek validation because they've already built it from within. That doesn't mean they never feel lonely. It simply means loneliness no longer controls their decisions. Instead of asking, "Who will love me?" they begin asking, "How can I become someone I truly respect?" Ironically, this inner stability often makes them better partners when love eventually arrives. Because they don't love out of desperation, they love out of abundance. They don't need someone to rescue them. They simply choose to share the life they've already built. Perhaps that is what emotional maturity really looks like. Not becoming independent from everyone, but becoming independent enough to love without fear. Chapter 4: A life that is truly yours at the end of life. Very few people regret being single. What they regret is living according to expectations that were never truly theirs. They regret staying in jobs they hated, remaining in relationships that had already ended emotionally, ignoring dreams because they were waiting for the right time. Life has a quiet way of reminding us that tomorrow is never guaranteed. One day you'll stop worrying about what your neighbors think. You'll stop comparing your timeline to your classmates. You'll realize that the race you spent years running never actually had a finish line. The only meaningful question was never, "When will I find someone?" It was always, "Am I becoming the person I want to be?" If love enters your life, welcome it, love deeply, give generously. Build something beautiful together. But never allow another person to become the foundation of your identity. Because every relationship in life is uncertain, people change, circumstances change. Even the strongest love cannot prevent loss forever. The only relationship that remains from your first breath until your last is the one you have with yourself, so nurture it, protect it. Learn to enjoy your own company. Learn to sit quietly without needing constant distraction. Learn to create meaning that doesn't disappear when circumstances change. Because a peaceful life is never built upon another person's presence. It is built upon an inner foundation that no one can take away. Perhaps that is the real lesson. Being single is not better than being married. Being married is not better than being single. Neither path guarantees happiness. Neither path guarantees suffering. What matters is whether you are living consciously. Whether your choices are guided by love instead of fear. Whether you wake up each morning feeling that your life belongs to you. In the end, happiness has never been hiding inside a wedding ring. It has never been waiting in another person's heart. It has been quietly growing inside you all along. Waiting for the moment you finally stop searching everywhere else. Because the greatest freedom is not finding someone who completes your life. It is discovering that your life was already complete enough to be shared. Thank you for listening.